Right, okay. So, quick summary. I have made a lot of mistakes prior to me going into this episode, and I've also spent a lot of money up to this point. And I think for that reason alone, well, I decided to do some more of my money grinding by using my JGTC Nissan. And as a result, I've now won myself another Toyota RSC rally car, which is somewhere in here. It's much easier for me to find it on the date when I got it. So then I'm not selling the wrong model, in my opinion. So, I spent a lot of money on my Volvo 240 GLT Estate, only for me to find out that I basically spent all that money for absolutely nothing. So that means I am gonna have to use that thing for another event. Possibly one of the endurance events, from what I know. But anyway, let's sell this Toyota again. We'll get up to 760 grand at the least. And now, I've decided on which car it is I will be using for our next event, after I manage to do enough digging. We're going to proceed as planned. I've got my money back and then some, and now I'm going to head over to Alfa Romeo, and I've decided that the only car I can really buy for this is the Alfa Romeo Spider 1600 Duetto. And I've decided, you know what, let's just use this thing. And I will use it. Yeah, let's use this thing in black. Why not? And now it is time to cue the music for our next event. Okay, let's go. Time now to cue the music. Okay, I think we have everything on this car that we need to have. And if we don't, then well, fuck it. Hopefully, if it's possible, even though I did reset the game because I wanted to make sure that I went into this with a fresher mindset. Let's hope that the tuning we have done to this thing is able to at least give me enough of an edge for me to not face against the AC Cobra. In which case, if I do, then well, I'm basically fucked. And I think for the wheels we'll go with... yeah, sure, 5 spokes will work. I know we don't need a wing on this thing, rims will do nicely. Hopefully, if it's possible, I can basically go out and pull a Dustin Hoffman in this thing, since I've decided that I am proceeding as planned with the Europe Classic Car League, and up to models from 1970 or earlier, and we are heading to Nürburgring, Fuji 80s, Opera Paris, Suzuka Circuit, I think, yeah, it's the full race course, and last but not least, Deep Forest. Hopefully we will not have to deal with the AC Cobra in this event, because if we do, then well, basically, I'm fucked. But hopefully that won't be the case. Thank God I do not have to deal with the AC Cobra here. But what we instead have to deal with is a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia Coupe, along with a Lotus Elan, 2 Alfa Romeo Giulias, the GTA and the Speciale, and, of course, the Fiat 500. Who, of course, as you know from my philosophy, is basically just a field filler. So, I think it's fair to say that the parts and pieces we have on this thing in most areas, we probably won't need those. But I do have them with me just in case. But hopefully we should be okay. And so, without further ado, let's begin the the Europe Classic Car Championship. Since I've decided I'm just proceeding as planned. And only 5 points if we win, so I think that tells me that regarding the juxtaposition of everything that I have spent my money on, including the trick out sequence of my Volvo 240 estate, something that I will make sure to showcase. Something that I will make sure to showcase at a later date, but I think since we're only scoring 5 points here, this should be pretty easy for me to pull off, is what me thinks. And I also know that for most of these, there are going to be some very long laps. Although I did feel like the tuning was necessary because, well, for want of a better phrase, had I been going up against an AC Cobra, I would have had no chance. So the tuning was definitely necessary for backup. It's also quite rare for me to... It's also quite rare for me to use literally 2 cars from the same manufacturer, but I decided in the end to go with my original plan, and nothing is going to stop me from doing that. Especially since I did reset the game after discovering that my Volvo 240 was not eligible for the Euro Hot Hatch League. And in all honesty, that just really didn't sit right with me. So I decided I would basically just accept my losses and then basically get rid of them by just doing more money grinding, which is basically what I chose to do here. And I am convinced in saying that most of that tuning I did, it probably wasn't needed, but again, I was not taking any chances because of knowing about just how hard a lot of the races I've done up to this point really have been. And for that reason alone, I just decided I was going to stick with my original plan and just get through this. I will also make it my destiny to use the Volvo at some point. I guarantee I will be using that Volvo. Whichever event it is I use it in, I will make damn sure I use it before the end of this game. I swear by the hand of Almighty God, I will use my Volvo 240. It's practically a mission for me to use that thing now. Especially because of all the money I spent on it to make sure that it was going to get through. I'm also going to be way ahead of everyone else by the time we get to the end of this thing. And if you're asking who the car is way at the back, well, that's the Fiat 500. Again, as I said before, a car that's very much a field filler in this event because of just how slow he is. I also chose the Alpha because, well, this was the only classic European car that I could really use, and in terms of a car that I, for want of a better phrase, have not yet used. And that's the main reason why I chose this thing. Thus giving you pretty much all the reasons in the world as to why I chose this thing. Because it was the only classic car I could buy from a European dealership. And initially, I'll admit, I was pretty discouraged when I found out that my Volvo 240 was not eligible for the fucking Hot Hatch Championship. Because that's what my initial plan was going to be, but I've now decided my only real plan is to basically leave that for a later date. And I practically made it a promise at this point to say it is a car that, as I said before, by the hand of Almighty God, I will make damn sure I use it. Even if it's going to be somewhere further in the future, when I eventually get round to doing the endurance events, I will make damn sure I use that Volvo. I've practically made it a pledge to say that I will use that thing. Also, the Lotus Elan is now up to P2. But either way, he's not going to catch me and my turbocharged. Either way, he's not going to catch me and my turbocharged Alfa Romeo Spider. And yes, I decided to use this thing because, well, personally, I simply could not care less about using any other car. Also because I didn't really feel like using the Ginetta again, since I already used it once before. Could have used it again if I really wanted to, but then again, I would not really be getting my money's worth. Pun intended. Now I have an itch on the left side of my nose. Something that I will have to sort out as soon as I'm done here. It's also unfortunate to say that I cannot see the driver this time. Unless it's only on city courses when you can actually see the driver avatar thingy. I think that's what I'm referring to. But either way, I am very much pulling away with the lead and seemingly with no real opposition to challenge me. And yes, I figured it was necessary for me to put on the Speedline rims because, well, I figured it would make it more interesting. And if you're asking me what my plan is for the thumbnail, well, I'll probably get my thumbnail captured at Fuji. I think that's what my plan will be. So, very close to the end of the lap here at the Nürburgring. And now we have just one corner to go. There's the Grand Prix circuit beyond that tyre wall. And there we go. An easy 5 points. And that is race 1. Over the Lotus Elan and the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA 1600. So that was race 1. Oh, I get it now. Yeah. Okay. I forgot to switch back to the mediums. Oh well, it's fine. Again, the reason I have more money as well because I did my easy money grind again. So those are your results after race 1. I honestly doubt they're going to change in most positions. But now we are at Fuji Speedway 80s for race 2. And I think for this, I probably don't need the turbo. So you know what? I'm going to take that off. And just leave the friggin' computer chip on. I think we should be fine for this. Because I've established that my competition doesn't really have any upgrades on. I think we should be okay for this one. Anyway, let's go. 2 laps of Fuji Speedway 80s. And not really much of a points difference. We'll only get about 9 points if we win. So, I think that pretty much tells me this race is going to be a piece of cake. From what I can see. Although I can certainly say my car is quieter compared to the other 2 Alfa Romeos in this event. I will also make sure to show you my money spending sequence for my Volvo at some point later on in the game. Probably when I decide to use it in one of the endurance events, since that probably will be what I end up doing. and a little bit off the pace, but I'm convinced in saying it's not going to be too much of a problem, because our speeds don't really differ from one another, as the Lotus Elan is now looking to set up a pass on the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA. He's now done that successfully, and I am now trying to pass the Elan from the outside with momentum. I close in. A lot of people forget, of course, that you're often used to flow around corners, and around the high-speed racetracks in particular, you basically just had to glide your way through the corners, and in most areas you would hardly ever touch the brake pedal. And I guess you could say, in this instance, that's kind of what the original layout of Fuji essentially is. But either way, I took off the turbo kit because, well, I figured it wasn't needed. And yes, I know to most of you I may have spent all that money for nothing, but the truth is, I'm convinced in saying that performance aside from a few tweaks, I'm now strongly convinced in saying it's not going to be a problem. But as ever, I try my best not to be prideful. And I do try and make sure that the wins I get are well-earned ones, as the Lotus Elan now passes me from the outside, but I'm convinced in saying with enough momentum, I should be able to repay the favour. I can certainly say this race is a lot more interesting than the Nürburgring. And as long as I don't run into the back of him, we should be fine. I think I should be able to get enough speed. Or maybe not. It's going to be close. Come on, pass him, pass him, pass him, pass him, pass him. Yes! In photo finish fashion, I actually pulled that off with a last second slingshot. I actually got the win. Did not think that was going to happen. But I somehow pulled it off with a last lap slingshot. That was amazing. But anyway, 2 wins out of 2 to me over the Lotus Elan. And now we have another 3 races to go. The Alfa Romeo Spider leads with an 8-point advantage. Also, yes, the other reason why I won that race is, well, because I had the racing chip, which also helps. I am keeping my handling related parts on this thing because, well, I figured that was the main reason why they came in handy. Plus, without them, I don't think I would have been able to get that slingshot. But I'm definitely glad to say that time around I did get the slingshot. And I think it's fair to say that for that reason, at least, it makes my job easier. So, pretty much an all-time classic, pun intended, here at the 80s variant of Fuji Speedway. Also the 70s variant, ironically. I still find it amazing to think that Gran Turismo is probably the only racing game franchise I can think of that was successfully able to get Fuji Speedway in pretty much all 3 of its variants. It would absolutely never happen today. But it is fair to say that for them to get all those layouts the way they did, they had to be in the right place at the right time. And the Fiat 500, well, is just here for show. he's not really here to race. As I said before, he's pretty much the field filler, so I think you get the idea of what I explained before. You probably do get the point. I should not have shifted down into second. Oh well, I think we should be fine because, well, Opera Paris does have plenty of corners. I'm convinced in saying speed won't be too much of a problem here, unless I completely shit the bed, but I don't think that's going to be the case. As we head up to this left-hander at around 100 miles an hour, making sure everything stays in control. The Alfa Romeo leads, and I get through that corner nicely. And now we head up to the bus stop. Don't really need to push too hard at the moment. I am making up time nicely. I can definitely say it was quite a battle I had with the Lotus last time out at Fuji, because it really did come down to basically a last lap pass. Basically a last second pass in order for me to get the win the way I did. And that was without any weight reduction upgrades, that was just pure pace. With a few tweaks on the handling, and that's about it. So closing in on the two leaders, I'm making up my time very nicely as the Lotus does close in on the Alfa Romeo at this stage. I could have shifted down to second, but I didn't want to have a repeat of the wheel spin. And now, it looks like I may have a shot at this thing. I'm steadily closing in on the two leaders. So hopefully, we can manage to get past this without any real trouble. Oh yeah, I have racing brakes on this thing, don't I? That's why I was able to pull off the dive. I just remembered I bought those brakes for a reason. So, trying to see if I can get past the two leaders again. It is fair to say that by me putting on a few performance tweaks to make this look more compelling, we're being quite successful at the moment. And had to force my way down the inside of the Giulia GTA, well, Giulia Sprint I should say. Giulia Sprint GTA, that's what I was thinking of. But in another 2-lap thriller, I come away with a 1.8 second advantage. Man. The racing in most areas for these regional events, it's been pretty tough. It's been pretty tuck and nip, from what I can see. And to say it's been competitive at this point is honestly just how much of a testament to say just how much more competitive the racing gets as you go further and further through the game. At least as long as it's not in the endurance events anyway. But there we go. 3 wins in a row. Can I make it 4? I certainly hope so, as we only have 1 lap at Suzuka Circuit. So these are your point standings now, as the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA 1600, that's quite a tongue twister, finished P2 ahead of the Lotus Elan, And the rest of the field, well, they're pretty much single file in terms of their positions. So I have a 14-point advantage over the Lotus, and whatever happens here, as long as I score, the championship is pretty much mine, regardless of what happens. You know what? I'm going to stick with everything the way it is. I think I can take it, as it is another grid start. And we are now beginning race 4 of the European Classic Car Championship, as the Lotus Elan is already trying to pass the leading Alfa Romeo. Ironic to say that, for want of a better phrase, the 3 Alfa Romeos in this championship, if you include me, we're basically red, white and black. And if you want to see the reason why that's the case, well, you just have to look at the colour schemes in tandem, I guess. I think that's the way I can best describe it. But I am glad to say I still have my handling parts fitted, because if I didn't, then this might be a bit more of a struggle. And there goes probably my clean streak. Well, there goes my only real chance of getting a clean sweep, as I went off at Dagna. I don't think I'm catching up to the Elan anymore. I think he's probably got this one by the horns. Well, my win streak had to end eventually, but either way, it's okay, because, well, I still got 3 wins in a row. I was honestly hoping this would be a clean sweep, but at the same time, because I took off the turbo I had on this thing before, well, anticipations of a clean sweep were no longer the case, because I wanted to pretty much do it in the line of entertainment, since that's basically what I do this for. But it's okay, because to be fair, the Elan was probably going to outpace me at some point anyway. So I think it's fair to say he was going to get revenge on me either way at some point. But you know what? He's fine. I do expect myself to be challenged every once in a while. It's not like I really have anything to lose. I'll still win the championship anyway, so, you know. Well, looks like it's going to be 4 out of 5. I may consider putting on the turbo for the final race, just to make it easier if the Elan beats me again. He probably won't, but, well, I figure it's probably the least I can do to limit the damage regarding my silverware losses. Okay, 10-point gap. I can definitely say the regional events have given me plenty of challenging races. But you know what? I'm okay with those. Because, well, it just gives me a reason to go back and do the races again. So, final race, and it takes place at Deep Forest Reverse. This is where I will undoubtedly need the turbo, because I'm not prepared to risk being completely outdone by the Lotus Elan again, as I was before. That's my only reason for putting on the turbo. Because, well, as you can see here, Deep Forest does have its fair share. Deep Forest, well, it does have its fair share of straightaways. And I figure for that reason alone, I might as well put on the turbo. And that's probably going to be the way I beat the... That's probably going to be the way I beat my next opponent when I go back and sweep up Suzuka. So 2 seconds is the gap to the Alfa Romeo, but because I have a turbo fitted this time, speed will be not as much of a problem as it was before. And I will actually be able to compete against the Lotus here. And probably blitz him as well whilst I'm at it. Because that seems like my best option at this stage. As I have a 1 second gap up at the front. And I am running wide. But either way, I am at the front. In my black Alfa Romeo Spider. Here at Deep Forest. And that's pretty much where I need to be. As long as the Alfa Romeo does not completely blitz me. But anyway. That's what we're doing. So now heading through the tunnel, and now heading through what I think is the second tunnel, as I now have a 4 second gap up at the front, so having a turbo really does make all the difference. I will also have to go back and sweep up that loss I had at Suzuka later. I know that's one thing that does need to be done before I do anything else. And yes, I did put on the turbo just because, well, I wanted this last race to be easy on me. And that's pretty much the best way to do it. Also, if you're asking, no, the cliche easy on me, no pun intended, it's not any relation to Adele, just to be clear. Anyways, 4 out of 5, just gotta sweep up that one race at Suzuka, and then that'll pretty much be everything. I would definitely consider Fuji to be probably the most exciting race of the bunch, because with a few handling tweaks I was able to outduel the Lotus in the end. That was partly the reason why I saved that replay, because we really were just in an all-out duel in that race. So, 4 out of 5 wins for the Alfa Romeo Spider 1600 Duetto. The Lotus Elan takes second, with the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA third. And now I will go and view the rest of the field. Also, the power increase is pretty significant. So 10 grand for me. And for winning the championship overall, we get another 30 grand. So these are your final point standings. 46 points to me, 32 points to the Lotus Celan, 21 points to the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTA 1600, 16 points to the Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint Speciale, I hope I said that right, 10 points to the Volkswagen Carmen Gear, and at the back was the Fiat 500. Very much just being the field filler. Anyway, moving on. So, for winning the Classic Car European Championship thing, or whatever the fuck this event is called, we get the Mercedes-Benz patent Mercedes-Benz patent Motorwagen. Or Motorwagen. So that's why we win. Now let's go and clean up Suzuka, since I know that's a race I have to go and correct. Anyway, this is a refined championship that covers European sports cars from the 1960s. Okay, let's go and turn the silver into a gold. There we go. Just one race we had to clean up this time in the Europe Classic Car League. A championship which I won using my Alfa Romeo Spider. And now that that's done, next up we have the Euro Hot Hatch League. 1,000 miles, by the way, that will not be coming until later on. But before then, however, the Euro Hot Hatch League will be next. And this will be coming up a bit later on. But there we go. So that was the Europe Classic Car Championship, as we've now moved up to 37.3% of progress. I did also fit the racing parts to this thing when I did the sweep up, because, well, I was up against the Mercedes 300 SL Coupe, also known as the Gullwing car, to those of you who want simplicity. And well, because I figured that car had at least 200 horsepower, I basically fitted my car with my racing parts to accommodate for it, and also the Sport Soft tyres as well, just to make things easier. Anyways, this is what we get. The Mercedes-Benz patent Motorwagen. The first patented, I hope I said that right, patented I refer to now, the first patented automobile and or motorcar ever made. Ironically, the other first ever motorcar ever made, aside from the Daimler Motorwagen I showed off before, if it's somewhere in here. Probably isn't. Oh, it's here. Correction, the Daimler motor carriage is what I was referring to. Anyway, there we go, and now driven over 1,050 miles in this thing, well, in this game altogether. And as for the mileage I got with this thing altogether, well, I got 37 miles, plus the sweep up I did at Suzuka. Anyway, I think that'll do it for today, so next time on Gran Turismo 4, Euro Hot Hatch League coming up next, and hopefully I will have a official hot hatch next time. Anyways, yeah, Euro Hot Hatch League is what we're doing next time.